Hello everybody. Hi. I decided that I would come on and do another little live today because a few things have been cropping up over the last week and I've been getting some really interesting questions that have been coming in. So I thought maybe if I come on and do a little live, then we might be able to get a chance to go through some questions. So thank you to everybody who's here. Thank you ever so much. And I actually thank you for all of your questions and your comments, because I really think this is a very, well, it is, isn't it? It's a completely unique time that we're facing at the moment. We're not just facing with it, we're dealing with it, we're progressing with it, we're actually assimilating it into our lives, and we're actually working out, okay, so how does this virus situation impact on me, and how do I do my very best to be there for myself and for other people as I progress forward. So I'm Sue Ricks from SueRicks.com and the Sue Ricks Academy, and I'm hoping that some of my 30 years of experience might be of help to a few people. Some of the things I'm going to talk about is about reflexology in general, and also working in this very unique way of working from a distance. So virtual reflexology, distance reflexology, energy reflexology, whatever it is that you want to call it. And that's what I'm going to be talking a little bit about today. I'm also going to talk about a couple of other things which I hope you'll find of interest today. So when we're talking about virtual reflexology or distance reflexology, so what is that? So we're in a situation where we can't actually be working with some of our clients, and that's here in the UK. I do know that some of the people who are in different countries are now working, and I've seen some of the posts and I've had some comments and I've had a couple of emails, and I know how joyous that is to be getting back in touch with our clients. But if you can't get in touch with your clients, or you want to add this to your repertoire, then this is something which I think is just great. And as some of you know who've watched the previous ones, this started with me having a personal experience with a couple of family members who lived on a distant continent, and I wanted to see what I might be able to do to help. Now, I actually want to go back again as well and remind us that I also started out in the healing industry at the very beginning. So working at a distance is something which I'm very familiar with, but I get that lots of people are not familiar with it. And there's lots of different talk about the rights and the wrongs. And I appreciate that this is absolutely right for some of us, and it's absolutely not right for some others. So if it's great for you, then I hope I can be here for you to help to give you a little bit of confidence to give it a go, support if you're already giving it a go. But if it's not right for you, then please, this isn't right for you, then this video and this live is not right for you either. But what I wanted to focus on is all of us, where it's like, yes, finally there's some things that we can do. And having been involved in gentle touch reflexology for so many years, and my sort of line that I'm always running by is this: energy follows thought. So what we're thinking about is what we're energizing. And actually just this very day, I saw something on the television that just made me so laugh, when it was a bit about golf. And there was a piece about it where the commentator was saying how it's become a thing in golf that if you visualize what's going to happen and you think it and you keep thinking it and thinking it, the energy of that thought makes it more likely that it will happen. And they were referencing it to, if somebody thinks that they're going to hit the golf ball into the bunker, they're more likely to hit the golf ball into the bunker. And so I was just interested in how energy follows thought actually just is all around us. When we're thinking about distance or virtual reflexology, it's where we are literally at a physical distance. So that could be that you're connecting with somebody at the far side of the room. It may be that you have a relative who's in hospital. And I just wanted to say, if you are somebody who's had somebody in hospital, this is just fabulous. It's just so good to know that there's something that you can actually do. And I was in that same situation myself a couple of weeks ago, when my lovely partner was unfortunately in hospital for a few days. And it was something that gave me great solace to be able to go, right, I'm just going to just sit back and give him a treatment. And luckily he's here now. So that was something which I found really good. Now, nobody's going to know and we can't quantify whether this has made a difference or it not. But he said he felt better afterwards, and that'll do me. If he's experiencing something and he felt better, then I thought that it was just such a lovely thing for me to be able to do. So while we think about distance, that could be the other side of the room. It could be to a relative or to a friend in hospital. It could be to one of your clients who's sitting at home who can't come to see you in the clinic. I was talking with the student today who's qualified, and she's really nervous about opening up again, possibly in July in the UK. And what I was saying to her is, please don't open until you really feel that you're ready to open. There are so many ramifications to opening, and this is a very serious disease. And it is something which I would say energy follows thought. If you're happy to open and you've taken all the precautions that you need to do, that's one thing. But if you're not happy to open, please don't open. I know there's some brilliant chats that are going on, so I really want to be able to say to everybody, so like the Association of Reflexologists have got some marvellous training. So if you're a member of the AOR, go and have a look at their membership thing. They're inviting people to go to the coffee mornings. They've got some great things going on. Kelly's got some fantastic stuff that she's posting on the Love Reflexology site. The World Reflexology Network, if you're familiar with that, there's some great information going on there. And Wendy Watson has set up the lovely Distance Reflexology page on Facebook as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can connect with people who are into what you're into. So let's just talk about this virtual distance reflexology. Let's just talk about how can you set yourself up, because one of the things that I think is a bit possibly difficult to do if you're not familiar with what to do, which is to get into your own place and your own space and your own like inner world where you can really start to make that connection with that other person. So if you're going to do some distance work, the questions I've been asked is, does that other person need to know? And actually I would say they don't need to know, but it's a nice thing to be able to do, is to actually think about, I'm going to think about that person and I'm going to energetically ask them, would you like this session? I think it's a lovely thing to know that you can make that connection, and there's something that happens inside. I can't explain it, but the more deeply you go inside yourself, the more deeper you have a knowing about the connection with that other person. So I really can't say enough. And the more, when I started out years ago, I didn't know this, but the more I've been here, the more you set your scene up for yourself. So there are a few things that I find are helpful. These are personal things, these are suggestions. They may work for you, they may not work for you. One is, I always light a candle. So I've got my candle lit here. Yeah, you can see it just going there. This is one of my Love Reflexology candles. And I also think that it's a nice thing when you light a candle to think that you've invited an angel to join you, and you just send a prayer and a blessing and say thank you very much. And I think it's nice to be able to say, if there's anything or anyone around who can actually help with this for me and for the person I'm talking to, I'm connecting with, then I invite you to join and to be part of this lovely experience. So that's in lighting a candle. I also use room sprays. So a lot of you are familiar in the UK with the Neil's Yard. So this one, I don't know whether you can see, I'll turn that round. So this is the Neil's Yard organic aromatherapy room spray, and it's uplifting. And it is really, really beautiful. So if you were here and this was aroma smelly vision, it's absolutely gorgeous. But the other one that I use is the Alaskan Sacred Space Spray. This is a Guardian essence as well. So I love this one too. And this just gives me that lovely sense of freedom. This is available from Alaskan Essences. So having just been to Alaska twice, and I've been using this for absolutely eons, and then I realised that I was actually seeing those mountains for real, and that was very exciting. So created the space by doing that, created the space by lighting the candle. I might put a few crystals and things out. I don't know whether you can see this. Yeah, so I've got a few crystals here. Some of them are large, some of them are small. I've just brought some of the small ones today. And then you might also want to set yourself up in your special space. You don't have to do any of this. You can just go, actually, I'm just in the right mode. I'm just going to think about that person and I'm just going to do it. But it's also nice if you're actually going to set up a session to think about, I really want to really get myself into that energy in that place and that space. It's just such a lovely, lovely thing. So this is a smudge stick. So you just use your matches or your candle. I actually like to use my candle to light it. I'm not going to do it now because I need to keep myself safe. And I've got a lot of paper on my desk. So you would light the candle, light at this so that it starts to glow. So there's just a little of these fibers, and then you can blow. Yeah, just do a little, just blow this into the different spaces into the room so you get a little scent swell going. Now, sage has been used for centuries. It's been used for clearing patterns, and when I did all my training in feng shui and I did all my shamanic work, that's when I really started to realize the power of things like these, the burning ceremonies of these beautiful herbs. You can make your own, you can buy them, but always make sure you've got some sort of earthenware dish or something to make sure that you stay safe. So that's a really good thing to do to do the setup. So you might have your candles, your crystals, your smudge. It may be that you go into a particular place in your home, right, or wherever it is that you are, and you sit on a certain chair. You have the room configured in the way that you want to do it. Maybe you wear something, maybe you want to put your uniform on, maybe there's a special scarf or your pin or whatever it is that you want to do. Whatever it is that you want to do in terms of setup, that's perfect. But I also want to say, if you just go, I'm going to do it now, just get yourself in, just check in with yourself and go. So you don't need to do anything, but if you're the sort of person and you find the helpful setup stuff, to be able to do that. So let's talk a little bit about how to just get into the zone. First of all, you've heard me talk about get on the love highway. Think about what you love about your life, what you love about where you are, what you love about reflexology, what you love about the person. Just get on that love highway, because energy follows thought, and what you're thinking about is what you're energizing. And just open that up. That's the best possible thing. And the more that you do that, I've just seen that Nicola's used the smudge stick in the house yesterday and cleared the energy. Well done. And thank you, Kelly. Good to see you. It's just a great thing that when you're energizing and you're working from this heart space, right? So when you're talking about energy and chakras, the big one in the middle is the heart space in the middle, and this is the one that affects the energy going up and going down. So if we're trying to get sort of heavenly connections down to earth and earth connections up into the heavens, and we're the interface, we open it up with the love center. So that's the green one in the middle. Right, and so this is the heart space. It's the acceptance space. It's the one that is the big connector. So get yourself onto the love highway. So if I draw that symbol in the air, you recognize that. And if everything that you're thinking about is what you're loving, that's a good place to start. Then you can actually then say, right, I'm just going to get myself in and down and what we call grounded. Now, I've stopped using that word a little bit because I know that a lot of us, and I'm one, thought that we understood grounded, and the more I go on, the more I realise, oh, there's more, and oh, there's more, and oh, there's more. So those of you who are on the Surrogate Academy, you'll see I've got a lot of techniques about how to do these different exercises. But one of them, the pyramid safety technique, which you may be familiar with from the Academy or having run my courses or whatever, seen it on Facebook, is so you've got one head and two legs, and get in and down into your pelvis. So find your pelvis and settle into your pelvis. And then just sit quietly in the center of your pelvis. So it's just sit in and sit down. And the more that we do it, the more that we settle in, the better we are. And imagine yourself in your beautiful space and bubble space, so that you're in that sort of loving vibration. You've got all these beautiful things that are keeping everything all gorgeous around you. And you just settle in and feel, oh, that's lovely. Yeah. Now you start to think about that other person. But it's your work that you do with you first. Now, I've been teaching Gentle Touch Reflexology for a very long time. And those of you who are familiar with Gentle Touch Reflexology will know that I have gone on about this a tremendous amount, because the quality of the techniques that you do when you're in the love highway is just amazing. So if you're going to do a touch technique, maybe for yourself or for a partner, and you're going to do something very simple like go down the spine, you could just be in a, right, I'm going to do my shopping mode, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I'll just do a quick bit on your hand, and you just go like that, and that's the technique. Or you could get on the love highway, get yourself in and down, know that you're on that beautiful energy bubble space, and now just take those few moments just to settle in, and now do your working down the spine, down the hand. So if you're into using hand reflexology, this is such a great technique for going down. This is the central nervous system, and it's such a lovely thing for calming you straight down. Now, the effectiveness of that is so much better when you're in and down. So that's a lovely thing to be able to do. And then when people say, well, I'm going to do distance, and I'm going to do my virtual distance work, and I'm going to think about that person, how do I do the connection? And there's been a lot of talk about it. And I would say, do what's right for you. Now, some people, so for instance, myself, I was in the garden and I was like, right, and I got myself in the mode, and I just thought about my relative, and then I started moving my hands in the air as if I was working on his feet. That's what I did. And I can do that. I'd have times when I'd go into my clinic space and I would do the same. And there are times when I would be like laying in bed and I'd be thinking, I'm just going to do a little bit more. And so I would just imagine doing some techniques on his feet. And I would move my hands because it was just something that works for me. But you don't have to. You can just do it in your head, right? And people say, well, does that work? Well, you've got the placebo effect. You've got the, got the opposite with the nocebo, which is when, when the chemical companies tell you, the pharmaceutical companies tell you, or might get a headache, and woo, people get headaches. So if you are the sort of person that going, well, this can't work, even if the person on the other end has a belief that it might work and it works, that's brilliant. Or maybe it actually works. Right? We're in the infancy of all of this, and this is as old as the hills. When I first started in the healing areas many, many, many years ago, way before my children were born, this was something which was passed on to me by the lovely Margaret Bates, who introduced me to reflexology and to healing in Nottingham. And my golly, this is something which has been taught forever about it, and people will argue about whether it works or it doesn't work, but it's just such a lovely thing to be able to say, I'm going to give it a go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I tried. Now, it may be that you can do that thing that it's right for you, so you just think it and you can just imagine it in your head, and I do that too. Or you move your hands, or you want to work on something to make it easier for you to imagine the connection. Now, when I came into NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, I learned a million things that changed my life. One of the things that I learned is we all think so differently. So it's really important to honour how other people's brains work differently and how other people need to do it to be able to say, right, this is what works for me. Right. So if somebody says you have to do it this way, they have to do it that way, but maybe you don't. Right? You could do it your way. So I've brought along my plastic feet today. Yeah. So it may be that you've got some plastic feet. These, unfortunately, before everybody asks where did you get your feet from, these are no longer available. But I think you can get some from anatomystuff.co.uk, and there might be other places that you can get them from as well. So it may be that if you're holding a pair of feet, that you can find that easier to imagine these are the feet of the person you're thinking about. So one of my simplest ones that I absolutely adore is that simple heel hold. So if holding plastic feet makes it easier for you to imagine the connection with your client, then do it. Maybe it's not right for you. Maybe you don't want to be holding plastic feet. Maybe you want to just check in and just do it, or you check in and you move your hands, or whatever. Maybe you want to do some surrogate work. So here's my lovely friend. Here's my lovely teddy bear. I'm going to move this candle before anything exciting happens. Right, so here's my lovely little Ted. Right, he's, oh, I'm as daft as a brush, aren't I? So I loved looking at him. I think he's really sweet. So it may be that you've got a teddy bear or a doll, or you may have something that you use. Maybe you teach baby reflexology. I teach baby reflexology. So maybe you've got a doll that you can use to do that. So I wanted to use this because there's like, you've just got like a pad and there's nothing that says this is a foot, but we obviously know it's a foot. So maybe you might be saying, well, I'm actually going to do some work. Maybe they've got problems with their lungs. Obviously, it's common at the moment. So we know that in reflexology, my chart here, so we know that the lung area is across here. So it's the greeny area across there. Well, that would be roughly about there. So maybe we're just going to work across there and imagine that we're now working on the feet of somebody else. So this is like what we call surrogate work. Now, for all those of us who say that this is rubbish, I absolutely agree. For some people, this is rubbish. Hi, Kit. Lovely to see you in Canada. I don't like that in with two in. So when we are thinking about doing surrogate work, it's a really great thing to be able to know that you can make those connections in different ways. And when people are saying it doesn't work, well, if we think it doesn't work, then it doesn't work for you. But if you think it does work, then it does work. And in NLP, and we discovered that I cannot tell you how much I learned on that NLP course, and that's why I've included a lot of NLP techniques into the academy, is because it just blew my mind of all these really easy and simple things. So it's called Neuro linguistic programming. Well, that like such a mouthful to say, NLP. I call it Now Let's Play, because when you learn the different skills and techniques in NLP, you discover how unique everybody's brains are. So your brain is working the way that supports you through all the ways of your life. You've learned this is how it works for me in terms of the way that you operate. You're not wrong. You are you, and that's how it works for you. So you might need a thing. Yeah. So you might need a foot. You might need your teddy bear. Right, you might just work on a chart. Yeah, so some people are using just charts, and they're just literally working through with their techniques onto a chart. So if you laminate this, you can use your same lotions or your oils. Sally Kay's got the most beautiful balms, hasn't she? Flying Wild. They've got the most amazing lotions and potions and all kinds of fantastic products. I've seen that they've even got their candles going now. So lots of you know that. And I know there's oodles of brilliant products out there. So you might laminate it, and then you can wash it down afterwards. But it might be that you are actually working across a chart. So maybe you're just working, that's like the bowel sweep. If it works for you, do it. Whatever it is that's making a difference, that's the thing to do. Or it might be that you pick up your own feet, if you're able to do that. Yeah, sit quietly, pick up your own feet, yeah, and work on your own feet. Now, I get this doesn't make sense, but it does make sense for those people who are doing that. And if you haven't seen the video that we did a little while ago, on YouTube, I've put my all my recent videos that I've done onto YouTube. So go back and look on YouTube for the one that we did with Bev Green Johnson, with Dorothea Crenell and the amazing Sharon Bowers. And there they talk about how they do it. And a lot of them do that by working on their feet. And it's fascinating because one person that they work on their feet feel like this, and then another person that they work on their feet like that. How can that be? And yet it can be. So every time people do something that's new and different, there's people who really get it, and there's people who don't get it, and the people who say it's right, and the people who say it's wrong. It is as it is to those people. So the whole distance virtual is just such a fantastic thing for those of us who've been into the energetics of working with reflexology. And the more that you do it, the better it gets. So there's been Wendy Watson does the great thing on Facebook where there's you can sign up and you can have sessions with each other, and she announced we're going to be announcing then how to pair up again. And it may be that you want to be able to do sessions, but you don't need to wait to be told who to work with. If you want to do that, put a notice up onto social media and say, anybody fancy doing a virtual session? Somebody will pick you up on it. Somebody will say, yeah, me. So you don't have to wait. So in whatever social media groups that you're in, if you fancy giving or receiving, just put out a request and see who responds. And that's the way to grow it, is by experience. And for everybody who's just going, I wonder if this works, dare I try it? Go on, I dare you. If you don't give it a go, you're not going to know what a difference it makes. So I want to also remind you to say at the end of the session, when you've done the work, do remember to say thank you to all the whoever's that have joined in. So that may be that you've mentally said to somebody, I'm going to do a session at 4 o'clock. And that's what I've been doing with my clients. I will arrange a time with them. They do know that I'm going to be tuning in, as I call it, at that particular time. I ask them if they'd like to sit quietly and just imagine that they're having a session with me. They know what that's like. I ask them just to sit quietly and just imagine. I suggest that if they want to close their eyes and just imagine that I'm doing their feet at the time. They're very familiar with that. Right. And then at the end of the session, I've changed it now. I used to say, I'll ring you. What now I've discovered is that it's better for me to say at the end of the session, if you want to, you're welcome to ring me, or you're welcome to stay in that vibration and in that feeling. Because when I said to people, please ring me or I'll ring you, I realized that I was taking them out of that inner healing state. And when anybody goes into accessing their own inner healing, that's when the big stuff happens. So if somebody's sat quietly, that's a good thing to do. If they've imagined receiving a reflexology treatment that they know that they love, that's a good thing to do. If they've activated their own inner healing systems by making a connection, that's a good thing to do. So for the of the phone to ring, shunts them straight out of that. So I actually now don't. And I do think that possibly at the beginning, I was possibly wanting to know, does this work? So now I know it works. So I don't need to. You, the client, are more than welcome to ring me, but I don't need to do that. So you can do this on working on your own feet. You can do it working on your own hands. You can do it working on teddy bears, on feet. You can do it by working on charts. I saw a lovely thing with a lady who put a sock on a boot and she was doing it that way. Whatever it is that is the mechanism that helps you to be able to work on somebody else, that's got to be a real winner. So if anybody's got any questions or anything that they want to ask, if you're on this live now, feel free to ask the questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. We've got one here for, oh, Catherine. Yeah, how about working on your own hands, easier to reach than feet? Yes, absolutely. Yes, as I say, working on your own hands or your own feet. Because hand reflexology, very underestimated, and it works incredibly well. Can we charge? So Susie, how lovely to be here. Can we charge for virtual reflexology? And how long would you advise us to do the practice for doing the practice for a session? Okay, so can we charge? Brilliant question, and it's on my list of notes that I'm going to be covering today. So thank you very much. Again, this is personal preference. You have to decide what you are comfortable with. There are lots of different ways that people are doing this. If you are feeling that your clients want a session from you and they want to be able to pay you before they accept you giving that time and energy, then it may be that they'd say, no, I don't want you to go into that time and energy and effort and the energy exchange, which is such a lovely, important thing, unless I can pay you. And I learned that many years ago when I offered to do a session for a really good friend of mine, and she said no. And I was like, why does she say no? But I accepted it and went, okay, she's not going to have a session from me. And then probably about a week later, I said to her, are you going to pop along and have a session? That was when we could do face-to-face stuff. And she went, no. And I was like, there's more to that look than I understand. So I asked her why, and she went, no. So I'm like, okay, don't go there. Anyway, she was really struggling. So a couple of weeks later, I said to her, would you like me to come to you to do a session? Thinking maybe she doesn't want to come here, but if I go there, and she went, oh, no. And I'm like, wow, that's a really big reaction. What was that about? Anyway, a bit later on, I found out. She went, Sue, you do so much, and absolutely no way I want you to spend time and energy on me. There you go. Yeah. And I went, what would make the difference? When would you be happy to receive a session? And she went, if I can pay you. And I went, okay, all right. And if that's the only way that you will have a session, you can pay me. Yeah. And then obviously we had that debate about how much to be able to do. So I can't answer your question about whether you can charge. Right? It's entirely up to you. What I've been doing is I've been doing my complimentary sessions, right? And I did them 2 weeks. It was a little while before I got into this the virus situation, before I thought about it. And so I've done 2 sessions for each one of my clients. I'm just about now trying to go back and trying to work out a schedule, because otherwise I'm going to be doing it all the time and I'm not going to have any time for me. So I've got to work that out. Equally, you've got to work it out as well. If you want to charge, you can charge. However, what I would say is, please contact your insurance company just to check in. And those of you who are thinking that you want some sort of training or course or whatever in whatever and how to do it and get your certificates and things, just email me, courses@surrogate.com. Maybe I'll put something together. I make you no promises, but you're more than welcome to do that. So if you want to charge, then if it's what you want to do, then absolutely, but check with your insurance company. If you want to do it free, gratis, absolutely. I decided that I wanted to do it for free, for gratis, for my clients, a complimentary session, because how would they know what it is? How would they know what it was like? But now that there's more of it around, then more people are more interested in it. I've just seen there's another little message here. Here we go. This is from Claire. I really enjoyed doing it today, and my friend was blown away, felt so much happier after the session and felt a lot of sensation in her legs and had the feeling that I was being pulled down and grounded. Amazing. Honestly, that's just music to our ears, and thank you for sharing that. Right. We've got the most fantastic amount of rain happening at the moment. It's beautiful. I love the power of the energy of nature. So when you're talking about that, Claire, that's just a brilliant thing to be able to do. Lauren, I did some virtual reflexology on my daughter a couple of nights ago. She was restless and rolling around a lot, and you could see her feet twitching on the baby cam when I started. Oh, that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And this is when it doesn't matter whether you believe in it or doesn't believe in it. If you want to make a difference, get in, get down, give it a go on the love highway. You decide what you want to charge, not charge. Give people the chance to find out if they like it. That's why I'm loving Wendy's Distance Reflexology Facebook page, because people are getting a chance to try it who wouldn't have thought about it before. So I think it's easier to see the effects on children. They don't have barriers and doubts. Absolutely, Lauren. They don't have that filter of, oh, this won't work. And guess what? If you think it won't work, it won't. And if you think you're doing it wrong, you are. So just suspend it all and just go for it. That's the most important thing. So I wanted to, let me just check that I've gone through the things that I wanted to say on there, because then I just want to come to something else. Some people work on hold the photograph of somebody. So if you've got a photograph of that person and just having that in front of you, it helps you to connect. That works great too. Or maybe you own, maybe you've got something of theirs. That's another way of being able to do it in a different energetic way. I've done so many different things in my life of working in different ways to make connections. It's really great. It's amazing what you can do, Remember to say your thank yous. Choose to talk afterwards or not, charging or not. Insurance have done that, and placebo, yes, brilliantly. So you can use this anywhere at any time with anyone who wants it. This is like almost like a sort of energetic contract between you and somebody else. So this is a way to be able to do that. And I've been involved in Gentle Touch Reflexology so long, and talking about how energy follows thought. And if you think you are working on that reflex point, you absolutely are. So it's a beautiful way for working. Susie, brilliant that it's really helped. I'll use my intuition and work out where I go with this. Intuition. Now, this intuition thing, when I'm talking to people about expanding your intuition, and there's a lot about this on the Academy, when you're expanding your intuition here, which is your little radar, it's the things that you know you really don't quite know how you know it, but when you're expanding that, it's also helping your digestive system. And when people are talking about wanting to expand their intuition, my suggestion is, if you don't think you're intuitive, if you think that you've had an intuitive moment, but you ignored it because your brain overruled it, it doesn't matter. You notice that you noticed a moment of intuition. And if you notice that you notice it, yay, well done, you've noticed it. Maybe next time you might choose to follow it. And that's why when we talk about this link between intuition and your digestive system, is when your gut instinct is telling you that something's good, then that is a good thing to do. And I was going to use as an example for that, some of you have recently seen Jane Sheehan's new book, which is the Guru's Guide to Reflexology. So this is Jane's new book. It's absolutely fabulous. And Jane asked me if I'd like to contribute to the book. And at the time, there was a lot of things going on. And then I was like, no, actually, I really would like to contribute to that. And I've had a lot of fun of working with Jane. So if any of you haven't seen this book, this is the contents. So it's got How Foot Reading Led to Foot Reading by Jane Sheehan. It's got Pause Point, Animal Reflexology by Yvette Eastman. Ayurvedic Reflexology by Sharon Stathis. She's lovely. We worked with her in Alaska. Auricular Reflexology from Alison. Hi, Alison. Redefining Reflexology, Lessons from Multi-Reflexology by Helen Black. The World of Gentle Touch Reflexology for All by Sue Ricks. Inner Intent Reflexology by Alison Walker. Metamorphic Technique by Prue Whelan. Precision Reflexology by Jan Williamson. The Children's Reflexology Programme by Susan Quayle. Vertical Reflexology, VRT by Lynn Booth, and Adapted Reflexology by Gunnell Berry. So these are really, there's so much that's in here, and then there's support for reflexology in lots of other different things as well. So there's a lot in this book. So if you're interested in books, that's another book to get. And I don't think I can take the time to do that. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, I am going to write that. And I wrote it, but it was at a really difficult time because I got a lot of things going on at the time. And then I thought it probably wasn't going to happen because Jane had got lots of things going on. And I was actually on the way to the trip that we've just had to Florida, and we are so lucky. We've just been to Florida and to Hawaii, and we were teaching in Hawaii, in Seattle. And on the way down, I said to George, I wonder what's going to be happening with that, and wonder if there's anything I need to be doing with it. And when we got to the hotel, there was a message from Jane asking me to do all the proofreading of the book. So my intuition was kicking in again and creating me the mental space to think about how creating the time to actually do the editing for the book, which is now out. So that was in January, and here is the book. So those of you who are interested in writing, please get going, because it takes quite a long to write a book. I know it took Jane a very long time. I am going to write some things about virtual reflexology, distance reflexology, because it's just started flowing. So if there's anything that you want to say about it, please feel free to email me, office@surrix.com. And when we get to the editing stage, I'll let you know where we've got to. But if you're new to distance virtual work, and if you're new to getting on the love highway and grounding or whatever, I hope this session has given you a little bit of yes, let's just give it a go. Because there's part of me that thinks we perhaps just need to hold each other's hands a bit at the moment while we're doing something. Oh, hi, Bev. I've just seen that you're here. How lovely to see you. And Bev's one of the people who did the YouTube video with me. So if you go onto YouTube and have a look, you'll see that Bev was answering her way about how to do this virtual distance reflexology. So for all of the people who are thinking about doing it, my suggestions are very simple. Only do it if you want to do it, not because you've been told to do it, or you should be doing it, or I ought to be doing it, or all those pressure words. Check in with yourself, get yourself on the love highway, think about all the things that you love, make sure you're properly in and down. Yeah. So you can use your tree roots by pushing them down into the earth. Yeah. I like to do that. So actually, if you see on, I don't know if this shows up here. Let me just see. Where's my charts? So on my charts here, right, so I don't know if this is going to show up on here, but you can actually see some like tree roots here. So push your tree roots down into Mother Earth to like down into the earth to feel that connection. Now, I've been doing that for years, but I took myself on a stage further when I started to become unwell. And my getting myself healthy again was when I was like, oh, I'm getting that I need to have my tree roots down, but I also need to be able to make a connection. So can you see this practical connection down into the earth? And that's why I say get into the bottom of your bowl. If you're on the academy, go and have a look at the bowl technique, BOWL. Get in your bowl, sit in the bottom of your bowl, and that helps you to make that connection. So it helps to keep your gravity down. Find your own way of working, do it, and if you don't want to tell anybody about it, don't. If you just want to do it secret, just do it. Whatever you want to do, do it, because this is brilliant. So thank you to everybody for joining me on this session today. I hope this has been helpful, just to give you a bit of an oomph to be able to just give it a go. I feel very, very blessed to have worked with all the people that I've working with. There's some smashing, beautiful, big-hearted people here who are into this. If you're into it, fantastic. If you're not into it, that's fine. But to everybody who's into this and loves working on the Love Highway, I say thank you to you all. Lots and lots and lots of love. Bye bye. I'm Sue Ricks. See you later.